Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching our video today. We're going to be talking to you about applying to a public university here in Colorado. My name is Leah, and I am an admission counselor with the University of Northern Colorado.
And my name is Rebecca Hughes. I work at the University of Colorado Boulder, and we're excited to have you with us.
So today we just wanted to talk to you about, again, applying to a Colorado college. And so we're going to talk about your different application options, the supplemental materials that you will need to send in, and then Colorado Free Application Day.
All right, so first starting off with the actual application itself, you'll see a couple options here, and Lee and I will address some of these. First being the common application. If the common application is new to anyone, or if you're not very familiar with it, it's essentially an application that you can submit that can be sent to multiple different institutions. So there are almost 900 colleges that are part of the common application, including 11 different Colorado schools. So if you're applying to a bunch of those schools, it really helps to streamline the process of sending out multiple different applications. You think of your demographic information that you share, that's the same on every single application that you can complete. It really kind of cuts down on filling those things out multiple different times just to be sending out a handful of applications. One thing to note is that some colleges and schools are exclusively on the common application. So CU Boulder is a great example of that. The only way that our first year applicants are applying is through the Common App. So that may just make sense because some of your schools are exclusively on the Common App, but regardless, hopefully that helps to save any time and streamline the process for you there.
Yeah, and you might be wondering, when should I fill out the Common App versus when should I do an institution application? So looking at applying only to a few different colleges or universities, I recommend using just the institution application. Most institutions, you're going to need to require your own account with them to follow your application anyway and understand what you still need to submit. So again, if you're really only planning on applying for maybe 1 to 6 different colleges, definitely recommend using that institution application. Also, it is note there are some universities that aren't on the Common App either. So UNC can be found on both the Common Application and their own. However, remember that not all universities are going to be on the Common App. And it also can be easier and quicker than doing the Common Application as well if you're only doing a few separate institution applications. One thing that we just want to remind you of is to be aware that some universities do have application deadlines, so you will want to be aware of those institutions.
All right, so I did mention we have a handful of schools here in Colorado that are on the Common Application, and you'll see those listed there. Like I mentioned, a handful of us are exclusively on the Common Application, so you'll need to use the Common App to apply to some of these schools on the list. But like Leah said, if you're applying to a handful of schools that are on the Common App, that may be a little bit easier route than filling out multiple different applications. So it just depends on where you decide to apply and what that specific institution has available as far as application options, but this is the list of Colorado schools. So we want to shift gears a little bit into talking about the additional materials that go along with your application. So it can get a little confusing. You'll want to submit your application for admission and then all of the other supplemental materials that an institution is looking for. Most schools will require a transcript. Often they will require an official high school transcript. And what that means is that in order to be considered official, your school should be sending that directly to the college. You all have access to a really great counseling office at your high school. So one piece of advice that I have is to make sure you really understand their process for sending transcripts. They may want you to provide a certain amount of notice before sending a transcript, or maybe filling out a form to request that to be sent over to an institution. We really recommend staying on top of this so your transcript isn't late to the institution that you're applying to. For example, you might need to request your transcript a couple weeks in advance, and then it might take a couple days for the college to process it and get it attached to your application. Want to make sure you're aware of those timelines so you're not submitting materials late. One other thing, when you apply to an institution, you'll likely just have your grades from 9th through 11th grade. we'll look really closely at your transcript, not just your GPA. So we'll look at the classes that you're taking, the trends in your grades, the rigor of your courses. All of that's really important to us to understand who you are as a student academically. You should also note that when you graduate and enroll at a college, we will also see your final high school transcript, including your senior year grades. So a little tip there to make sure to avoid that senior slide. We'll eventually see your senior year grades as well.
Yeah, and so after transcripts, some universities might require letters of recommendation and personal statements. Some universities might not, but you want to make sure that you're aware of the requirements for each institution that you are applying to. So first of all, what is a letter of recommendation and a personal statement? A letter of recommendation is something that you can request from a teacher, mentor, a counselor to write on your behalf. Typically, they talk about how they know you, they talk about your character and how well they've gotten to know you over the time that you had spent together, either in the classroom or in the counseling office. And then a personal statement just kind of tells us who you are outside of academics. We can definitely look at your transcript, but we want to know also who you are outside of school. And so like I said, remember each institution is going to require different things. Some might require no letters of recommendation and personal statements. UNC is one of those schools. However, there is a point where we do recommend them for students. So definitely reaching out to the school that you're applying to see what they recommend. And then some might require 1 or 2 letters of recommendation, again, in those personal statements. So for those letters of rec, ask some well-known teachers, mentors, or counselors to write them for you. Somebody who really does know you, who's seen you grown. And as you go through your high school journey, those are going to be the more powerful letters of recommendation for sure, versus if you ask a teacher that you've known for a semester. So be aware of who you are asking those letters of. And then when it comes to your personal statement, some things to include: help us get to know you. So different extracurriculars you're involved in, if you faced any academic struggles, what were they, how did you overcome them? And some also might require a writing sample, so not necessarily a personal statement. I know you can attach a writing sample to the Common Application, and a lot of students do work on those during their class time as well. So you could also submit that one if you believe that also kind of speaks to your character and your academic history. So one thing that UNC and the state of Colorado really decided for fall 2021 admissions were that all public institutions were required to waive the requirement of test scores for a student's application. And we just wanted to give you a heads up. Unfortunately, right now, we do not know what this is going to look like for fall 2022. Our hope is that we will stay test optional, so you do not have to submit SAT or ACT test scores to complete your application. But, you know, unfortunately, it's not as easy as just saying, yep, we're going to keep this in place. So stay tuned and make sure to, again, check out each school's website that you're applying to, because that's where you're going to get the most updated information.
Awesome. So we talked a lot about all of the materials that could go into an application. Certainly there could be more or less depending on the institution that you're looking at. But one thing that we wanted to notify you all of is Colorado Free Application Day. For the last 3 years, the state of Colorado has hosted a free application day in all 32 state colleges and universities, and a handful of private institutions as well have waived their application fee on one specific day in October. So stay tuned on a specific date to come here this fall for October 2021, but that will be announced this summer. A couple tips and tricks for preparing for free application day. You don't actually have to do your entire application on this one single day. You can start it much earlier in the process. In fact, we really recommend that. It'll allow you a lot more time to feel confident about that application, make sure that you've really thoroughly filled that out. You really just need to click submit on free application day. So we recommend taking some time to fill it out and really make sure you feel good about that application. And again, you also don't need to submit all of your additional materials on free application day, just the application itself. So for example, at CU Boulder, we require a letter of recommendation, a transcript, some other things. Those are not required to be submitted on free application day in order to have your application fee waived. We just want to make sure that you're following deadlines at other institutions to submit the rest of your materials at some point. As long as that application itself is submitted on free app day, you'll save some money and save that application fee. Kind of some fun stats from free application day last year, 56,000 applications were submitted to colleges in the state of Colorado. So super cool. And in fact, that saved Colorado students $2.3 million in application fees. So definitely take advantage of that.
We just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. Obviously, since you're watching a video, you can't ask us questions right now. So we've put our contact information up here on the screen. So please feel free to send me an email, give me a call, or send me a text. I'm more than happy to answer any other questions that you might have.
Yeah, thanks for joining it, everyone, or thanks for watching. My contact information is listed there as well. We're happy to support you with any questions that you have related to the application process here in Colorado.